Charting Toward Intimacy covers mature topics. Listener discretion is advised. Ever feel like you and your husband are speaking two different languages in the bedroom? It might come down to your temperaments. In this follow-up episode, we are exploring how different personality pairings impact sexual dynamics. We're breaking it all down one matchup at a time. Welcome to Charting Toward Intimacy, the podcast for Catholic women that helps you improve your sex life, strengthen your marriage, and embrace God's design for love. My name is Ellen Holloway, and joining me today is my amazing semi-regular co-host, Kathleen Chavanis.
All right, let's talk about the temperaments again.
Again, that was a popular episode. I feel like
it was super. Oh my gosh, a bunch of you guys emailed me or reached out on Instagram, and you were like, "Yes, you should do the follow-up episode that you talked about." So yes. Here we are with the follow-up episode.
Ask and you shall receive. Catholics love their temperaments, though.
If you have no idea what we're talking about, please pause this episode and go listen to episode 224, where we started a conversation about the temperaments and your sex life. That's an excellent episode. So go listen to that first. If you do know what we're talking about, then welcome to the follow-up episode. Really quick, two things before we get started. I just want to put out the disclaimer that the temperaments are not the gospel truth. They're not. The temperaments is a personality test, like other personality tests. Now, I personally find that the temperaments are a very helpful personality test. I find them more helpful than other types of personality type tests. Yeah. And I know some people listening who are very temperaments are the temperaments are not a personality test. It's more, but really it's a personality test. Yeah. But they can be super helpful. But they also cannot, right? Not everybody's going to perfectly fit into these four categories. You're going to be a mix of things. Your husband's going to be a mix of things. So, don't take this information and go, this is exactly how our sex life is supposed to be. Or this is exactly what we are supposed to struggle with because this is our matchup. That's not what just take this information that is helpful, but take it with a grain of salt. Right? Take what's helpful, throw out what's not. But I think we're going to have fun in conversation.
Yeah, I think it's important to use them as guidelines.
Yes.
They can be really good guidelines, but they're not just the end all be all.
It's not a hard line, It's not
a hard line.
Okay, so really quick, for those of you who don't just have the temperaments memorized, we're going to go through them really quick. And then we will go through each of the different pairings of temperaments and what kind of the particular difficulties that pairing might have and good conversations that pairing is going to want to focus on in order to improve your sex life in this particular area. So cholerics, choleric is driven, confident, assertive, goal-oriented. Cholerics are quick to react, strong emotions. They are natural leaders, very high energy, decisive, passionate. If you're curious, I am a choleric. I'm passionately yelling into the microphone.
You are a choleric. Just a leader. The leaders.
Sanguine, social, fun-loving, affectionate, emotionally expressive. Sanguine are also quick to react. Emotions kind of fade quickly on them. Sanguine are kind of joyful, spontaneous, outgoing. Sanguine are easily distracted, avoids discomfort, craves novelty. Melancholic. Oh, yeah. I was waiting for you to say that. That's why I paused, but then you didn't.
I think there's a little lag in our recording because I was just
I think so.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Melancholic. They are thoughtful, introspective, sensitive, slower to react. Emotions are very deep. Emotions are very lasting. Melancholics are loyal, analytical. They value very deep connection. Melancholic can also be very self-critical, very anxious, prone to overthinking. Phlegmatic. They are peaceful, steady, kind, calm, agreeable, slower to react. Emotions are kind of mild, very stable. Phlegmatic are easygoing, empathetic, loyal, typically avoid conflict. They're kind of passive, and phlegmatic typically have kind of a low initiative personality style.
Yeah.
All right. So there's just real quick, if you want to review.
Quick background.
We super recommend, if you don't know your own temperament and you're going to listen to the rest of this episode, go figure out your own temperament and figure out, like, make a guess as to what your husband's temperament is. And then this episode will be the most helpful. So go to the five love languages. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, yeah. It's
not-
just Temperaments Quiz. I think it's just temperamentsquiz.com. It's very easy to find. But if you just Temperaments Quiz, it'll be there.
That was so funny. I'm so used to telling people to go to the 5 love languages.
Go to the 5 love languages quiz.
Go figure that out.
Do
That's
both.
Not connected.
Do both.
Yeah, do both.
You know?
They're both great.
Really,
They're both great.
really learn better. Yeah, learn about
We
yourselves.
haven't done like a 5 love languages episode in a while. I think we should.
That's
bring
true.
that back.
That's true. Yeah, we can work on that.
Okay, so let's go in. We're going to go into the different pairings. So let's start with Choleric Choleric. I actually got an Instagram DM specifically about this pairing. And it was like, what do we do? We're both choleric. And I was like, yeah,
Interesting.
this is a big
Yeah,
one. Actually,
this
probably
is,
going to say that about all of them.
They're all big ones. Yeah.
Okay, so choleric, both very high energy and a leader dynamic. This means there's going to be some clashing according to like who's kind of taking the lead during sex. There's going to be some clashing on initiating and just kind of like some power struggles. And then also cholerics are super prone to impatience. So if we're choleric and somebody's
identify with
having a
that?
hard time getting in the mood, like both of you are going to be super impatient and you're going to get mad. And like, so it's important to be aware in a choleric matchup that impatience is going to be probably your biggest struggle. And then right below impatience is going to be kind of this like power struggle dynamic of who's taking the lead. But I think impatience is going to be the biggest struggle. So one of the things, and this I actually, for that person who DM'd me, you're just getting a recap of my DM to you. But one of the things that I think could be most helpful for a choleric matchup is like plan to take turns initiating. Just like plan, like you go and then I go and then you go and then I go, and let your spouse, because we're a choleric matchup, you have to let your spouse do it. You have to let them lead, even if it's not the way you would want it done. It's so funny. As a choleric, I'm thinking about this matchup. This would be kind of tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got like, I think taking turns initiating would be so good. Taking turns like planning date night, planning like, and like say that we're taking turns. And so put the effort into it. Like ask the other to put the effort into it.
That's smart.
I think that would be super helpful.
That would be
and then
really
also
helpful, I would
like
imagine.
you could kind of take turns, and you can decide if this is part of your sexual dynamic or not, but you could take turns like leading through sex if you like that idea and do, and so it could kind of be like, okay, the person who initiates also is kind of the driver during sex and is like, let's do this now. Let's go to this. This is the position we want to do. So that could be kind of fun and helpful too. But you have to let the other person lead. That's the most important thing. Like you have to take the back seat and let them have that. Right. And then, okay, next time I'm going to be the one leading. Like, I think that can be really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds really smart.
And then just really like thinking about that impatience thing of like slowing down, making sure that you are emotionally connecting outside of the bedroom, thinking through like, okay, how can we connect? What helps us each feel loved, and just kind of like pause, like let yourselves pause. It's okay to go slow.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Should we go to the next matchup?
Yeah, let's do it. All right. Choleric
Let's do it.
Sanguine.
Choleric Sanguine. This is more of a...
Okay.
Yeah.
We've got like this is Kathleen and I, if we were husband and wife. That would be weird. Let's not go that route. That was a strange thing to think about.
Here's the thing. I don't remember my husband's. I feel he took the temperaments a long time ago, and I don't remember exactly what he is, but if I had to guess, he's definitely part choleric. There's choleric in there, whether it's primary or secondary, he's definitely choleric. So this is an actual, like, realistic matchup for my
your life,
actual marriage. Yeah. This is my life.
All right. So we've got choleric, high energy, high passion, and then like sanguine, playful. So this matchup can be like very high energy. Choleric and sanguine are both on this like very high passion, high energy side. What can happen though is that impatience that cholerics deal with can definitely come into this dynamic, is what I can see, is that the sanguine may want kind of more of that, like, let's play, let's hang out and foreplay, let's do something fun, right? And the cleric's kind of like, let's get going. Yeah. So I think thinking about that emotional connection, this is going to be a theme through all of them, because that's going to be important no matter what your matchup is. Working on that emotional connection before sex. Mm-hmm. And then just like talk about initiation. Like talk about what you guys like. The sanguine the choleric may be like, I'm gonna initiate. I'm always going to, right? And maybe not, right? It's not that the cleric is always the initiator. It's just that might be like kind of a common desire to be in that like leadership role there.
Yeah.
Right. But like the sanguine might want to initiate and the cleric may not be giving them that opportunity. And I think that might be, again, similar to the cleric matchup, is that like the choleric may need to remember to take a back seat and like give space for the sanguine to like do stuff or like be the initiator or suggest some ideas or like hang out and foreplay longer or whatever.
Yeah, I think that like with any of these matchups, but like this in particular, because I can relate to it so well, like communication is so important. Like, especially when you have this different personality type where you're coming from a different place with it. You really do need to talk to understand the other person and their preferences, because it's not going to come naturally to you. With this particular matchup, it's so funny. Like it's such a real thing that one person tends to really want like sex that's just exciting, and the other one wants it to be really like deep and meaningful. And it can be such a struggle to find that balance between like, how do we make this both exciting but also deep? Because one person's interested in one and the other person's technically or normally interested in the other, so kind of finding a way to combine those two it can be tricky, but it's where the communication and the empathy for your partner, again, with any of these, but in this empathy for your partner and where they're coming from and, kind of trying to work together is just huge. It's hard, but it's possible.
Yeah. Definitely. That was good.
Yeah.
Should we move on to choleric melancholic?
This choleric melancholic.
This matchup. Yeah. This can be. Honestly, when I was thinking about it, I think this might be the hardest.
Yeah.
Especially if the man is the choleric and the woman is the melancholic. I think that, I don't know. You guys might argue differently, but I think this might be the hardest.
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
So we've got the choleric personality is very strong, and the melancholic personality is, I don't want to say weak. That's not right. Like, it's not like melancholics are weak. Like, the melancholic personality is much more subdued. So the melancholic is going to be really looking for that like deep emotional connection. The melancholic is going to be super self-critical, and the choleric is going to be fairly impatient, right? So we can see how this dynamic can then lead into further issues with thought work, like within the brain of the melancholic, basically, is like your spouse, the choleric spouse, is already kind of in that more impatient area. And then as the melancholic, then you're just like, oh my gosh, everything's going wrong. I'm not going fast enough. I'm not warming up. And see, this is where I'm like, when it's the woman as the melancholic and the man as the choleric, I just see this is tough.
Yeah.
This is a tough one. But that is not to say that this matchup cannot have a wonderful sex life. You absolutely can. One of the things that's, I think, going to be the most helpful in this matchup is make sure that you guys both have done the temperaments quiz and understand the other temperament, because choleric and melancholic are very much like, they're kind of the opposite ends of the spectrum, which is why I think this can be one of the more difficult dynamics. And like really like have those conversations. Like what is it that you each need? And find that middle ground, right? So the melancholic, it might be like, I need us to go on a date before we have sex, right? Like, or I need you to compliment me a couple of times throughout the day before we have sex that night. Like, and those are okay things to say, hey, I need this. I need these compliments. I need these words of affirmation, right? We're just gonna put the 5 love languages in here, right? Like, but then on the choleric side, you can also explain like the things that you need. Like, I need you to let me lead. I need sometimes, right? Like, it doesn't have to be always, right? I need to feel like I have some leadership in sex, or like really just talk about what each of you needs. And then the hardest part is that each of you then needs to give that, right? You need to like give some space for those needs in this matchup.
Yeah. And that's what can be so hard, is just kind of, giving from another person's perspective. And I would also, make the point to say, like, the melancholic, a couple of things. Number one, the melancholic isn't just looking for emotional connection, but for safety and security, right? And that can be like that can be such a touchy thing. And that's why I also want to mention that I think, and again, speaking from my life here, right? Like, I just kind of wonder how many melancholic personalities, whether it's primary or secondary, right? Probably more secondary melancholics, which again, that's me, sanguine melancholic. How much of that melancholic personality is coming from trauma or, right? Like, just sort of like, just like mental health or emotional struggles that we've experienced, right? And again, I'm looking at me with this, like I am secondarily melancholic, and I know that that's stuff that I've had kind of build up in my life, right? So while this is, safety is a huge thing for a melancholic personality. So talking to your spouse about like, how can I make you feel safe? How can I make you feel desired? And as a melancholic, you may not know the answer, right? But trying to dig to that is really important, which is why I think listen, I am a proponent of therapy for all people, but I think especially if you find yourself like with any sort of melancholic personality, therapy to kind of help you figure these things out and, how to blend with these other temperaments as someone who is looking for safety, like looking for connection, looking for affirmation, can be so, so, so helpful. Yeah. And I'm not going to say that's everybody. Like, some people are probably just melancholic. Like, I don't think it's like all from trauma, right? But I think there's a lot of secondarily melancholic people who might have that personality due to some mental health or things in their past or whatever it is. So always important to seek help.
Yeah.
Just kind of figuring out all of that stuff.
I just want to like reiterate, if you're this matchup, you are not SOL. Like, you just like any other relationship, you need to figure out your middle ground and your space, right? Like, and so, I think foreplay is going to be super, super important for particularly this matchup, because what foreplay can do is it slows things down. It is something active and fun for the choleric, right? And it is also something that is like giving a slower lead in to sex and building some of that safety and reliability that the melancholic is looking for, right? So it's like, it's just if you do all the things, like you'll be fine, right?
Yeah.
But it's not just because you have this matchup, like please don't use that as an excuse to just take a back seat and say our sex life is just too hard. That's not fair to you. That's not fair to your spouse. Like it just means that you guys need to have some conversations and find some middle ground. And you might have to have some more conversations than say the next matchup we're going to talk about, which is, I'm going to argue, the easiest matchup.
You watch, you're going to get some people adding you like, excuse me, that's me. Like, and it's actually really hard. Okay.
And it's difficult. Yeah. Okay. So here's what I think might be the easiest matchup is Choleric Phlegmatic. And here's why.
This is only Ellen's opinion.
This is just my opinion. But let me tell you what, all right? We've got assertive and then kind of like the choleric assertive. And then we have the kind of agreeable phlegmatic. Like we can just already see how like this matchup it can work very well if it's like, if it's balanced, if there's good communication, if you've kind of like figured your stuff out. Like every single couple is going to have to figure their stuff out with sex. Okay. You got to figure out what you like, what you don't like, what your breaks are, what your accelerators are, what kind of foreplay you like, what kind of initiation you like, what kind of touch you like, what gets each other to orgasm, what kind of positions you like. You got to figure that stuff out. And that stuff takes trial and error. And I'm just thinking like, that is a fantastic podcast episode where we just talk about figuring your stuff out. Because like, like for newlyweds, like, so anyway, that's the next one we should do, Kathleen.
Okay, write it down so we don't forget it next time.
I know, right? Seriously.
Because we're going to forget. We're going to forget.
Right, but like if you've got your stuff figured out, this one can just be like a very like natural feeling. This dynamic can feel very natural because it can kind of just like the choleric has that sort of assertiveness and the phlegmatic is kind of like, that sounds great. Where this doesn't work is, or where this dynamic can run into trouble is if the choleric is like, this is what we're doing. And the phlegmatic's like, oh, okay. But that's not what the phlegmatic wants or needs.
Yeah.
So this is where like the phlegmatic, you're going to have to get brave and like you may have to initiate some conflict. And that's very, very hard for our phlegmatic
that can
friends.
Be really hard.
And that's okay, right? Yep. But like the bravery to say, hey, I don't actually like the way you initiate. I don't actually like this aspect, this thing. And can we try this instead? And then the choleric is going to need to, again, I think the like the anthem song of the choleric is give your spouse some space. Give your spouse space to do that, to like tell you things, to explain things, whatever. So like a good question for the choleric to ask the phlegmatic is, hey, do you feel pressured or overwhelmed by anything that I do around sex? Initiating, different positions, different things that we do during sex. Like, are you feeling pressured or overwhelmed by that? Are your needs met? Or are you just kind of going with the flow? Like, are there things that you would like to try? Like, that can be really helpful if the choleric can recognize like, hey, are there things you wanted to try? Because lately we've been trying all the things I want to try, right? The choleric has no problem being like, hey, let's do this. I want to try this. The phlegmatic can really, really, that can be difficult. That can be hard.
Timid, yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Do you have anything else on choleric phlegmatic?
No, I think that you're right. It's just kind of like you said, like the anthem sort for the choleric sort of being give your spouse space. Just that's it's just kind of like always taking a step back to sort of like check and remind yourself that like, oh, maybe he or she has preferences as well, right? Because for the phlegmatic, you tend to kind of like take a step back and just let the other person lead.
And that's not always a bad thing. I guess that's just like one more thing to mention about the choleric is sometimes those of us who are cholerics, think about my own relationship here. We like want the other person, like especially if they're phlegmatic or melancholic, we like want the other person to have this list of things that they want to do, right? And like they actually just might not have a list of things that they want to do. Yeah. And that's also okay. Like the phlegmatic might just enjoy going through and trying the things the choleric wants to try. And like, so that can be a really awesome thing. But then also that can be like frustrating for the choleric because it's like, but I want you to like, what's your list? I have a list. Like, tell me what you want to try. Right. And they're like, I'm good trying all these things. So just like recognizing that like that can be a space of contention as well. And that like, it's actually totally fine if your spouse doesn't have things they want to try, if they're enjoying the things that you're trying and that kind of thing. So it's all about communication. Yeah. Really. Let's just have some conversations, guys.
Love it. Yeah.
All right. Sanguine Sanguine.
Sanguine Sanguine.
The bedroom is a party. Yes. I think the biggest struggle for a sanguine sanguine connection is like just like regularly bring sex to prayer and ask God to continue to reveal the depth of sex. So I think this matchup, it can be super easy for sanguines to just like stay on that kind of surface level of sex.
Yeah.
And that can be really fun, but it really can like lack that beautiful like spiritual depth that sex has.
Yeah.
And so like just recognizing that and pushing each other toward that, guiding each other like toward that depth. It's going to feel like non-normal for you as a sanguine. And if you're both sanguines, like it's going to feel very easy to like just stay on that shallower level. And I hate to use the word shallow because I'm not saying that like you're a shallow person, but like just like recognizing that depth of marriage and intimacy and sex and really trying to like dig into that and remembering it. And like, I think centering yourselves before sex, like praying before sex or praying after sex can be like super helpful to just like really focus in on that depth of sex.
Yeah. Yeah. Straightforward.
This matchup also is the one that every time I say spontaneity is crap, these are the people who are yelling at me. These are the people, okay? It's the sanguine people who are like, no, we have to have spontaneity.
Gosh.
So here's what can happen though, I think in a sanguine sanguine matchup is that this matchup actually doesn't end up having as much sex because they are like so kind of desiring that spontaneity that sex doesn't become a priority. So these are the people that want to schedule sex the least, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
But these are the ones who need to schedule sex the most.
Right. Yeah.
So make it a priority.
Especially once there's children.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Yeah. It's like you would like never have sex.
You
have to be spontaneous.
So just go listen to like the episode Spontaneity is Crap. That's a good one.
Love that you called it that.
I know, right?
Spontaneity is crap.
It is. It is, my friends. My sanguine friends.
Yeah.
Okay. Sanguine Melancholic. Okay, so this is a tough one to think about.
Yeah.
Sanguine, we're kind of in that like, I'm not getting them mixed up, right? Sanguine is our fun-loving friends, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Who want emotional connection. They want emotional connection.
Sanguine is like fun-loving, wanting emotional connection. Melancholic is like intense emotion, right? So we're both of them here, we're looking for that emotional connection. I think this can be a really excellent matchup. This matchup is going to be, I don't know, it's going to be interesting. This one was not one that I had thought about before, and I'm like struggling with it a little bit.
Yeah, and now we're like looking at it. It's like, I imagine this one it's like a 50-50. Like it can either really work out or it can be really difficult, I think, because you're both sort of in this like emotional sort of state.
Right. Very
I think
deep on the emotional level.
Very deep on the emotion, but melancholics can also get very emotionally overwhelmed.
Oh, yeah.
So you know, I feel like it just kind of depends on where you sort of fall within sanguine and melancholic, like where exactly your emotions lie and the emotions that you sort of tend to experience the most. It really could, it's just like a 50-50 shot. Like
I know,
your
right?
sex life you could be totally matched perfectly, or you could really struggle.
I think
So
here,
because
like,
really
having
one, like the
conversations-
melancholic,
Sorry.
yeah.
ahead.
No, I was gonna say the melancholic has a need for affirmation, and the sanguine has a need for stability, right? Like it's just kind of like, how do we navigate your need for affirmation with my need for stability? It can just this is a tricky one.
I know. I'm stumped on this one. This is a tough one.
Yeah.
But I think there is going to be a lot of similarities in your needs for sex because of this. Like both the sanguine and the melancholic are on, like, there's this like spectrum way to write the 4 temperaments, and one of the spectrums is like emotional depth, and the sanguine and the melancholic are both on that emotional depth side. And so like recognize that that common ground that you have, and like I think just like building from there is that like, yeah, we both are looking for that, like that deep emotional tie with sex. That might mean that like you guys are potentially like sex is very much an event, and you really set aside some time for sex. Or maybe you just like consciously, you know, maybe every other time that you have sex, you're like, we're going to really set aside the whole evening for this. Like, you guys are not looking for quickies.
Yeah.
Which is neither good nor bad. Like, I'm just kind of like, yeah. So thinking about like really setting aside some time and working on that, like that emotional intimacy outside of the bedroom, making sure that you're both feeling that depth of emotion, that you're building that like depth of connection, that depth of intimacy prior to going to sex. And I think that's just going to really set you both up for feeling loved and connected and united during sex if we're working off that really strong foundation of emotional intimacy.
Yeah. I think that's really, really important because, you know, a melancholic, as we said, like with melancholics can sometimes feel emotionally overwhelmed. And sanguines then, I think, can take that and sort of feel insecure about their partner's like attraction or love or care for them, because the melancholic is just kind of like, you're overwhelmed, and so you sort of don't show as much emotion as you maybe feel. And then the sanguine, who's really like needs that emotional connection, feels like they don't love me. They're not attracted to me, right? Like they don't care. This doesn't really mean a lot to them, you know? And so there's just this misunderstanding, I think, between emotions. So another reason why, number one, obviously communication. How are you really truly feeling? But then just like Ellen said, that connection outside of the bedroom being built so that the sanguine knows, right? Like I can feel confident in their love and their attraction and all of that, regardless of what happens in the bedroom. I think that's, or how the melancholic expresses it in the bedroom, I should say, is important. Yeah.
That's good. All right. Sanguine Phlegmatic. Yeah, this can be a cool one.
Yeah.
You know, so we've got our like fun-loving sanguine and kind of our like laid-back phlegmatic. This can be a pretty good like matchup if the sanguine is also kind of the higher drive spouse and the phlegmatic is the lower drive spouse. Like this is gonna be like a pretty nice, like, you know, the sanguine's kind of that fun loving, like initiating, like let's get going. And the phlegmatic's like, yeah, let's, sure. Like I'll go along with the flow. I think there can definitely be some difficulties with like lack of drive if both of you are kind of on that lower desire or that like responsive desire type, or if the sanguine is also a responsive desire and the phlegmatic is maybe that spontaneous desire, but they're kind of laid back and like go with the flow, there could be like kind of just a low level of sex, like just low number, which again, numbers don't really matter. It's not about like hitting a quota or something for a good sex life. But I'm going to argue that scheduling sex is again going to be super helpful for this pair up, especially if the sanguine is the one that is responsive desire.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I think something that can be really helpful is having a similar conversation that the Choleric Choleric matchup had of like, do you want to initiate? Do you want me to initiate? Do we want to trade off initiating? Like making sure that we're both feeling very like feeling that desire from our other spouse. And so like swapping off initiating can be super helpful here. And like that phlegmatic, to remember here that the sanguine isn't always going to be happy with you going with the flow. Like the sanguine's going to want you to like come up with some ideas sometimes or like do something fun. So like the phlegmatic can really like lean into that and brainstorm some ideas. And then the sanguine just like remembering that the phlegmatic is not the same as you. Like,
right. Yeah.
And that is okay. It's not that they don't desire you. It's not that the phlegmatic is not desiring of you. It's just that they're not like looking for that novelty, looking for that like fun excitement. That's just like, that's not their personality typically. That's my thoughts for sanguine phlegmatic.
Yeah, no, I think that kind of sums it up pretty much. You can have this desire mismatch. And so a good question that can be asked is, you know, kind of what helps you get in the mood when sex isn't on your mind? Like no one needs help getting in the mood when sex is on your mind, right? But for this pairing, it could be that for one or the other, sex isn't always on the mind. So what are some things that can kind of help you get into the mood when that's the case?
Yeah. All right, we got 3 more matchups. Hang with us, everybody.
We're almost there.
Melancholic Melancholic. I think this can be like so rich if you schedule sex. That's
we should just title this episode Schedule Sex.
I know, right?
With how many times she said it.
Guys, we schedule things that we make a priority, okay? But so Melancholic, deep. I mean, this could be such a deep, loyal relationship. But I think it can be really easy because sex is hard. And because melancholics have a tendency to get emotionally overwhelmed, the thought of sex can be so overwhelming. And when we've got 2 people who the thought of sex is very overwhelming because it is so emotionally charged, it can be really easy to just kind of like let it slip. Oh, let's do that in a couple of days when I'm feeling a little better emotionally. So like scheduling sex can be really good. I think the other thing that scheduling can be super helpful for is eliminating a lot of that like self-talk of like fearing rejection, right? Because like a melancholic is going to be really potentially nervous to initiate because they're going to worry that they're going to be rejected. And this is where like, this is why I'm saying scheduling sex for this matchup is going to be super helpful because then there isn't this like, should I initiate? Is he going to say yes or no?
Right.
I don't know. I really don't want him to say no. Right. But like if we have it scheduled, if we're making it a priority, then like we're not worrying about that, like that fear of rejection.
Yes.
The other thing that couples like this can do, and you got to know your own relationship, Not like I'm saying this. Do not at me on this, guys. This can work very, very well if you are at the right spot with sex. It works terribly if you're not there yet. But what can work very well for this matchup is that you both agree to never say no. You have to be in the right spot with sex. You guys both have to be comfortable. And that has to be agreed upon by both of you. However, it can be so helpful for this matchup if it's like, yeah, you know what? If you initiate, even if I'm not feeling in the mood, absolutely. I'm going to say yes. I'm not going to reject you, right? So that can be really, really helpful there. You know, talking about like, okay, what's holding you back? What are you worried about? What, like, how can we create safety for each other so that we both feel like ready to have sex, that we both feel that like safety. Yeah, like just, you know, just really, I think talking about initiating is going to be helpful and figure out a vibe that works for you guys. And
so that you can feel confident in initiation. Like, I think confidence is a thing that melancholics are often lacking, right?
Yeah. And that's where like what I was saying about not saying no, like can really help with that confidence. But again, it is not going to work if you guys are still working through like some issues with sex. Okay.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And it's okay if you're not there yet. I'm not saying like you have to get to this point, but that can be an amazing, like that can be an amazing dynamic if you guys are at that point.
I love.
Cool. Okay.
2 more.
Melancholic Phlegmatic. 2 more. 2 more. Melancholic Phlegmatic. This can be like, I just feel like a gentle, like a gentle sex life, a gentle relationship.
Yeah. Like easy waters, you know?
Yeah.
Just like nice, gentle stream trickling very slowly, nothing crazy.
Yeah. I think the melancholic can get frustrated with the phlegmatic's kind of like lack of depth. Right?
Yeah.
Like the melancholic might want to have like some really deep conversations, and the phlegmatic's like, sure.
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about? You know, like, so that can be a difficulty there. I think both sides may have kind of, there's going to be some fear to work through on both sides. The phlegmatic is going to be worried of like, I don't want to rock the boat. I'm just like, and the phlegmatic is definitely like emotionally avoidant sometimes, right? And the melancholic is going to be like, oh my gosh, he doesn't love me or she doesn't love me, right? Because like the melancholic's not seeing that like emotional depth that the melancholic has in the phlegmatic. So, you know, I think the phlegmatic can really recognize like your spouse needs your emotional depth, even though that's not like a natural thing for you to like dig into, but digging into that. And then the melancholic, like, take your spouse's words at the depth. Like, if your spouse says, I love you, that means they love you. Like,
Yeah.
it's not yes, they might not write a beautiful poem for you that would just like really speak into your soul, but like that's what the phlegmatic is. Like the phlegmatic's not necessarily going to like really dig into that emotional depth naturally. So
I think this is a matchup where communication is particularly hard. I think this could be one where it's, you know, everyone's sort of pretty quiet. Like melancholics might not feel confident to bring up, you know, the feelings and the emotions and the thoughts and everything that they have. The phlegmatic is, you know, just a little more go with the flow, so doesn't usually initiate conversation, you know. So I think asking the question, like, is there something that we haven't talked about around our sex life, something unspoken, you know, that might be a really important question with this particular matchup, just to start conversation, because confidence in that conversation, and particularly around differences, can, I think, really be lacking.
Yeah. And I think another question is like, how can we how can we kind of gently push each other out of our own comfort zones?
Yeah.
And that might be scheduling sex.
Oh my gosh. Basically, no matter what your matchup is, just schedule sex. Like, that's all you have to do. That's it. Just schedule sex.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Anything else on that matchup? I think we're ready.
No, I think that's it.
Bring it home with the last one.
Bring her
we
home.
are clocking in at
We are.
This
is a long one.
Almost an hour long.
A long episode. Yeah. We'll cut some things.
Okay. Phlegmatic. Low conflict, which I think can sometimes mean like too low of like energy and conflict. And we're looking at two go with the flow people who don't want to rock the boat.
Yeah.
Right. And we can just see like both of them have something that they're not really liking that much with sex. They don't want to rock the boat, and that can really build some resentment. And that's just going to utterly destroy a sex life in a marriage. It can really just bring a lot of disconnection, I think, too. Sex can either the relationship can kind of just turn into a sexless relationship, or sex just becomes almost mechanical. It can't, in the worst cases is what we're talking about here.
Right, yeah.
So I think what's important for our phlegmatic matchups is just like recognizing, okay, your spouse is your spouse and they will stick with you. You're married. They're going to stick with you.
True.
No matter what. And it really is okay to rock the boat. And this is the like one relationship in your life that is probably the most safe to rock the boat. Like, this is your marriage. And then like have a conversation about that together of like, hey, it is okay. It is okay to rock the boat. I understand. Like, I know it's going to be a hard conversation for us if you rock the boat. But it is okay, and our marriage will be stronger for it. Our sex life will be better for it. Like, this is a good thing, even though it's going to feel really hard for us.
Yeah.
And maybe even, here's an interesting idea. As a non-phlegmatic, I don't know if phlegmatics would like this at all. As a choleric, I'm like, this is a great idea.
So easy for the clerics to say.
Is like schedule. Like maybe once a month might be a good amount of time.
Schedule sex?
No, I'm not even talking about scheduling sex. But that's a great idea. What a brainstorm. I mean, wow. That's an excellent idea. Maybe once a month might be a good amount of time. I mean, and maybe you'd find that like every other month might be good, or maybe you need like every other week. Like maybe you need more or less of this. But like schedule a time that's like, this is hard conversation time. And like, so maybe every 2 weeks, maybe start with every 2 weeks, and then you can decide if like you actually don't need to have that many hard conversations.
Yeah.
But that way, you just know, like, you've set aside an hour or two on that time. And so then whenever something comes up that you're like, ooh, I should probably talk about this, but I really don't want to. You can be like, oh, I'm going to bring that up at hard conversation time. Like when we are planning. And like that way you guys can both kind of emotionally prepare for like, okay, you know what? We're going to like this. It's going to be tough. And what you can do too is like schedule this like hard conversation time, but then like also schedule an incentive afterward. Like maybe you have hard conversation time and then you guys like eat ice cream together, right? Or like have a glass of wine after. Like I think they should be like do the hard conversation and then have the like reward. Or like if you guys like board games, like then we like play a super fun board game together. Or maybe you separate, like maybe after hard conversation, like then you each schedule something that you like doing by yourself. Like you like go take a bath or go on a walk or like something that you really enjoy, or you like go read a book that you really like. But I think that something like that could be really helpful for the phlegmatic matchup. to just kind of like have sort of this standing meeting of like, okay, this is when we're gonna bring up the tough things. And that way the conversation becomes safe because it's like, you guys know, okay, this is when I'm gonna bring up the conflicting things. I do think that the phlegmatics, even if you schedule it, you're gonna be like, I actually don't have anything hard to say this time. It's fine. We can just like skip it this week. Yeah. And you got to not do that. Like you got to not skip it. So yeah, so something like that can be helpful. And then the other thing that I think can be really helpful for a phlegmatic matchup or any matchup with a phlegmatic is get a notebook and have a conversation in the notebook. By like, you like write something out to your spouse and then you give the notebook to them and then they read it and they respond when they're ready and they give the notebook back. And you have this asynchronous conversation that is like slow and you have like control over when you're going to read the thing and when you're going to respond to it.
But that's a great idea.
That can be, I think,
really
super
good idea.
helpful. For any phlegmatic matchup. Of course, I'm saying this at the very end of the episode when the least number of people are going to talk, or I mean, the least number of people are going to be listening at this point. It's an excellent idea.
I think that's a great idea. That's a great idea.
Anything else for our phlegmatic?
I don't think so. I think you covered that really well. That was that last one was a great idea.
Okay. There we go.
Job, everyone. We made it.
We gave you what you wanted, and it was maybe more than what you wanted. Okay.
It was more than what you asked for, but here we are. Yeah. Good job.
Oh, man. All right. Well, thank you for sticking with us to the end.
Yes. Hopefully it was helpful.
Thanks so much for listening. If you're ready to stop feeling confused or discouraged about sex and finally understand how God designed your body for real, beautiful pleasure, you need to check out the Orgasm Course for Catholic Women. I'll teach you the tools and the mindset you need to experience the intimacy you were made for, all deeply rooted in Catholic Church teaching. Head over to vinesandfullbloom.com/orgasm, and I'll see you inside.